Connor Lew was so good a year ago.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We got a bonus edition of Locked On Auburn today, where I wanted to get on here for a few minutes. We're going to talk offensive line on this Monday afternoon. I'm going to tell you who I think should be the favorite to start going into spring. But first, I just want to highlight Connor Lew, Auburn center, second-year player at the college level, and has a chance to be the best center in college football going into his third and potentially final year of college football this upcoming season. Every morning on my socials, just search at Z Blackerby on whatever socials, I put up a stat of the day. And I wanted to make one about Connor Lew. In this past season, Connor Lew had 442 pass blocking snaps. He allowed just one sack all season. And you talk about a guy that is anchoring the offensive line, that makes the guys around him better. Connor Lew does exactly that. And how refreshing is it to hype up a guy, not just me, but everyone, saying like, man, Connor Lew can be great. Connor Lew can be great. And there were several guys that were young that we hyped up or that were hyped up and they delivered. We'll talk more about that in a future episode of Locked On Auburn. But he lived up to the hype. He lived up to the hype. When there's such a big narrative that is really coming from Auburn people about how this staff doesn't develop folks, and they quote, guys like Walker White leaving, saying, well, he wasn't developed. They're not looking at the guys that are actually developing and who are playing and who are going to be NFL players. Connor Lew is one of those guys. One sack allowed all season, according to Pro Football Focus. And get this, over the course of the entire season, he allowed 9 pressures. But the crazy thing is, of those 9 pressures, 5 of those were against Cal. That dreaded Cal game that we all wish we could wipe off of or wipe away from our memory. 5 of the 9, if you take out the Cal game, he allowed 4 pressures all year. That's insane. In the SEC, that is crazy, and you just don't ever see it. You don't ever see it. And so Connor Lew, hats off to you and what you were able to do this past season. What's next for Auburn at the center position? Well, it's more Connor Lew. And what could probably be his last year. I think he's going to be good enough to go to the NFL. But it's this weird range of like, okay, centers don't typically get drafted high. And in this age of NIL, can he make around the same amount of money staying in school? That's going to be a big discussion point, maybe, 11 months from now, assuming Connor Lew's able to put together another incredible season like he had a year ago. So we'll see. I'm also excited to see how they split time for Cale Ellis, the incoming true freshman who he's reclassified. Auburn asked him to reclassify because you have to assume the timing. They looked at it and said, well, the timing makes more sense because Connor Lew's good enough to go pro at any point after this upcoming season because that's when he'll be available or able to do that. Can Cale Ellis, as a true freshman who's enrolling early, that's not going through spring, how many reps can you give him? And is he the true second center on this roster? He could be. Braden Joyner, we saw play more guard down the stretch. We kind of all assumed he would be the backup center at times. What does Tate Johnson look like in this role? Is he the true backup center? And then like Cale Ellis is the plan for the future. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle the center position behind Connor Lew. We all know what the future is. The future is Cale Ellis after Connor Lew is done at Auburn. But how do they prepare Cale Ellis? Is he going to be ready to go as far as, mop up duty and giving all the snaps to him? Or is it going to go to a Tate Johnson or a Braden Joyner? I don't know. And that'll be something to pay attention to. Normally I say we can watch that this spring, but we won't because Cale Ellis won't be here yet. But Connor Lew, like, don't take it for granted. And I do want to spend a second here because there's a narrative, and a lot of this Auburn fan base is anxious and they want to point out the bad things because I get it. Folks are really upset that Walker White left. I get it. Like, we all have our favorite players and guys we want to root for, and you can still root for Walker at Baylor. I am. I certainly am. But this whole narrative that this staff isn't developing freshmen because they're doing well in the transfer portal, it's getting old, guys. Look at Connor Lew. Look at Keldrick. I mean, look at these guys who are now several years into this, that were kind of this original group that the staff brought in. Who else is in that class? Kay and Lee. Like, you're telling me these guys aren't getting developed? It's just lazy. It's a lazy take, guys. I think Connor Lew is kind of the epitome of Hugh Freeze came in, he flipped Connor Lew, and he's been nothing short of exceptional every step of the way moving forward. So Connor Lew, in 442 pass blocking snaps last year, allowed just 1 sack. Incredible. Incredible. Who could start along the offensive line going into spring? I'll tell you my best guess and what I like about it and what I don't like about it next, right here on this bonus edition of Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time's the best place to buy tickets. We talk about this over and over and over again because it's important. If you're listening to a Locked On show every single day, you love sports, and we want you to go watch the teams that you pull for or pull against or just want general entertainment for the best price available. And Game Time can help you do that. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was dealing with piles of paperwork and frustrating forms, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying if you're going to get any money back. Now Taxes is easily uploading your forms to a TurboTax expert who's matched to your unique tax situation, an expert who's backed by the latest technology, which cross-checks millions of data points for 100% accuracy. While they work on your taxes, you get real-time updates on their progress, and you get the most money back guaranteed, all while you go about your day. No stressing, no worrying, no waiting. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Bonus edition of the show on this Monday. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me for a second time today. When you look at this offensive line, they revamped it via the portal. 2 tackles coming in, and they're 2 very, very good tackles. Bringing in Mason Murphy, who most places had him as a number 2 offensive tackle in the portal. And of course, Xavier Chaplin, the former Virginia Tech, what was I about to say? Virginia Tech? The Virginia Tech offensive tackle, consensus number 1 guy in the portal when it came to offensive tackle. Xavier Chaplin is your left tackle. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think there's any question about Dylan Wade being your left guard. I don't think there's any question about Connor Lew being your center. The right side of the line, I do think, is interesting. All signs point to Jeremiah Wright being the right guard. I mean, that's where he was a year ago, and he was solid. I think it makes a ton of sense for Jeremiah Wright to be that right guard. At right tackle, you assume it's Mason Murphy, the former USC offensive tackle. I don't love Mason Murphy as much as the rankings do. I think Mason Murphy, it makes sense why the staff went out to get him. I don't think he's as surefire of a thing as Xavier Chaplin is. I mean, you talk to any USC guy, they're like, yeah, this was kind of like the weakness of the offensive line. But then you watch USC's bowl game, and in that game broadcast, they talked about like how big of a loss it was they were playing without Mason Murphy. And so it's always so hard to tell when you talk to either a fan or somebody who represents a fan base of the player that they just left, and they say, he wasn't that good. Like, okay, all right. But then you go back and it's like they were talking about him not being good while he was there. So like I kind of believe him. That's why whenever somebody has me on to talk about a former Auburn player, I try to be like, yeah, we like this guy. Talking about like Mike O'Reilly. I was like, yeah, I hate we lost him. Who else? Oh, I went on Locked On UConn to talk about Caleb Burton. You can go check out Locked On UConn if you want to hear us talk about Caleb Burton. But the guy's like, I think he's a good player. He just kind of got hopped. Like, so I never want to say like somebody's not good. It's just the opportunity changes when you go from place to place. And we all hope that Mason Murphy in this new setting is able to take that step forward at right tackle for USC. I mean, looking at his numbers, he's fine. He's fine. And I guess the strongest argument is he better than what Auburn had? Possibly. I want to see a true battle between him and Tyler Johnson at right tackle. I would love to see Seth Wilfred have an opportunity to battle somewhere. I love Seth Wilfred coming out of JUCO. I assume now he has even more years of eligibility because of the Diego Pavia lawsuit that they want, so all these JUCO players now get extra time. We'll see. And then like you talk about Jeremiah Wright being the presumed guy again at right guard, which I think he should be with the given roster. I think he should be. But where does Clay Whedon fit in? Where does Dylan Cinda fit in? DeAndre Carter, I think we all want him to get more reps. Favor Edwin, the raw offensive tackle. I think next year, a year from now, we're going to be really talking a lot about Favor Edwin and DeAndre Carter. But when are we going to see these guys take that next step and get a legit shot? Auburn's losing a ton of guys after this season. Dylan Wade, Jeremiah Wright, Jaden Muskrat, Tate Johnson, Mason Murphy. We'll see what happens with those guys. Connor Liu may go to the draft. Xavier Chaplin may go to the draft, depending on how they play. So we're kind of in this weird thing where Auburn's still got a lot of dudes, and then next year they're going to have to either have guys step up and replenish through the high school ranks, or they're going to hit the portal hard again. Maybe they get 2 more offensive tackles, or maybe they have to get more guards or centers, depending on how guys develop. I don't know. We're in this interesting phase, and we'll see how this coaching staff handles it. But all in all, I think from left to right, your most likely starting lineup starting spring, and I don't think this is crazy. Most people are going to say the same thing. Xavier Chaplin at left tackle, Dylan Wade at left guard, Connor Liu at center, Jeremiah Wright at right guard, Mason Murphy at right tackle. I think there's a real chance Tyler Johnson wins that battle. If it's a true battle, and we'll see. We'll see what reports are throughout spring. I'm in wait and see mode for Mason Murphy. I hope he's incredible. I just want to see it. So there we go. Who do you think is Auburn's starting offensive line? Let us know in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening on audio, please subscribe and rate the show. It helps a ton. But hit me up on Twitter at @ZBlackerby on all socials, as well as Instagram. Be sure to check us out there as well. Please like the video. Please subscribe if you're listening on audio. Once again, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps the show out a ton. Subscribe over at thebarnauburn.com, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.